Hello everyone, this is part 5 video on past year NEET questions from the chapter hydrocarbons. Now those who are looking at it can probably take a look at the other 4 part videos also, so that you will have continuity of questions. We'll start with a question that has come in the year 2007. Which of the compound with molecular formula C5H10? This is like what? CnH2n. So this is the molecular formula for the open chain alkenes or the cycloalkane. CnH2n is the formula for what? It is the formula for the open chain alkenes or cycloalkanes. So the question is, which of the compound with molecular formula C5H10 yields acetone on ozonolysis? Now alkenes and alkynes, both of them, they will undergo ozonolysis. If you look at the ozonolysis of open chain alkenes, like say for example we have an alkene. So when it is undergoing ozonolysis, it will be forming ozonide complex. So this will be the typical structure of the ozonide complex, and the ozonide complex will be broken either in the oxidative manner or in the reduction manner. Okay, so if you look at the reductive ozonolysis, typically the one that will happen with zinc and water or something, the compounds that will be formed will be carbonyl compounds. So the place where the ozonide complex will break down is exactly where we have the double bond, and on either side we will see that the carbonyl compounds will get formed. So each of the carbons which are previously having the double bond, they would now become the carbonyl carbons. So means depending upon what is the carbon, whether it is a primary carbon or a secondary carbon, the nature of the carbonyl compound will be decided, whether it will be a ketone or an aldehyde. So what we will be having is we will have on either side the carbonyl compounds being formed. So whether the carbonyl compound is an aldehyde or a ketone will depend upon what is the nature of these carbons, whether it is a primary carbon or a secondary carbon. Okay, now here one thing is out of question, that cyclopentane, cycloalkanes, right, they will not undergo ozonolysis. In fact, if it is a cycloalkene, like we have cyclopentene, but the formula will be different. Formula will not be C5H10, formula will be C5H8. that will be the formula for cycloalkene. Okay, so if you look at the ozonolysis, then exactly the double bond place, we will see the carbons are going to become carbonyl compounds. So we will get a product like this, but that's out of question here. So option B is clearly not going to be the possibility. Then we have to take a look at each of these remaining options A, C, D, and then work out what will be the products of the ozonolysis. So we'll start with option A first. Option A is what? 3-methyl-1-butene. So 3-methyl-1-butene basically means we have the double bond in the first carbon, and third carbon we have the methyl group. Now when we perform, of course we can add the required number of hydrogens. This will have 1 hydrogen, this will have 1 hydrogen, this will have 3 hydrogens. If you perform ozonolysis of this, then exactly we have to break it where we have the double bond, and we will see that this carbon will become a carbonyl carbon, this carbon also will become a carbonyl carbon. Okay, so the products we don't see acetone. Okay, so we have both aldehydes coming here. Both the products are what? Aldehyde. So we don't have an acetone coming. So this is not going to be the possibility. Now let us look at option C. What is option C? 2-methyl-1-butene. So option C, 2-methyl-1-butene means same. First carbon we have the double bond, and there is a methyl group here. Okay, so and we can add the required number of hydrogens. So this will have no hydrogen, this will have 2 hydrogens, this will have 3 hydrogens. So if you perform ozonolysis of this, Here we will see this carbon becomes an aldehyde carbon, but this will become a ketone. So what we will be having as product C is H2, C double bond O, then C double bond O, CH3, CH2, CH3. So here also we don't have acetone. Now since we have worked out option A, B, C, definitely option D must be the answer, but we will anyway check it up. Okay, so we will just erase some part of it so that we will be able to have space to work out the problem. So let's go to option D. What is option D? Option D is a 2-methyl-2-butene. So we'll have to first write down the structure of this alkene. So 2-butene means, you know, the double bond is on the second carbon, then 2-methyl. So we'll just add the required number of hydrogens. This will not have any hydrogen. This will have 1 hydrogen. This will have 3 hydrogens. This is 2-methyl-2-butene. If you perform ozonolysis, exactly double bond site is where it will cleavage. Then what we will be having is this side will have a CO, CH3, CH3. This is what acetone. Acetone is the common name for the ketone, which will be the first member of the ketone family, propanone. Okay. So then on this side we will be having C double bond O H CH3, which is acetaldehyde. Okay. So the compound that will be giving us acetone on ozonolysis will be 2-methyl-2-butene. So the correct answer for this is option D. So whenever we have ozonolysis questions, right, we just have to take a look at the alkene, exactly break the alkene at the double bond site, and respective carbons which are in the double bond previously, they will become carbonyl carbons. Next we have a question that has come in the year 2005. Which of the following alkenes will react faster with H2 under catalytic hydrogenation conditions? See, I mean, you know, catalytic hydrogenation is basically the one where we use the Lindlar's catalyst, paradised charcoal. It's a solid. So basically it's a solid catalyst. Now the thing is, we must have the alkene to adhere to the surface of the solid catalyst. Means, you know, the alkene, which will be in the gaseous state, typically should get adsorbed easily. Okay. So when it is getting adsorbed easily to the solid surface, this is the solid surface of a catalyst, then what is going to happen? The possibility of the reaction will be increasing. Why? Because in the gaseous state, if you look at the concentration of the molecules, it will be relatively lesser. When they come and adhere on the surface of the solid, the relative concentration on surface of solid will be increasing. Okay, thereby also the catalyst will be able to enhance the rate of the reaction. The question is, which one of the following alkenes will react faster with H2 under the catalytic hydrogenation conditions? So if you look at the cis variety of the alkene, so cis variety of the alkene is what we have in the option A. Now in the option A, the cis variety of alkene, it will be easy for it to get adsorbed on the surface of the solid. Why? Because on one side we have both hydrogens, so there will be no steric effects. There will be no steric effects, and that's why, you know, it will be able to come and easily adsorb on the surface of the solid, where we will have both these bulkier groups on the other side of the metal surface. So among the possible alkenes given to us, right, the cis form will be able to easily get adsorbed on the surface of the solid catalyst, and hence in that case the catalytic action will also be higher. Whereas if you look at the other options, right, like say in this case we have option B. So on one side we will definitely have a bulkier group. Option C also, I mean, whatever side we want to have the adsorption, we will have a bulkier group. I mean, in option D, whichever side we look at it, both sides they are having the bulkier groups. So the steric hindrances, right, they will prevent the extent of adsorption onto the surface of the solid. So the correct answer for this is option A. Next we have a question on ozonolysis, but this is ozonolysis of alkynes. So especially when we look at the reactions of alkenes and alkynes, while in alkenes both the addition reaction, the Markovnikov and anti-Markovnikov rule concept, that also is an important area in terms of questions. Ozonolysis is another important area. Similarly, alkynes also, this ozonolysis is an important area for the questions. The products of following reaction, what is it? We have an alkyne, we call them as what? Higher alkynes. Means what? So we consider all alkynes to be the derivatives. I mean, this is a convention that people follow in the initial times, where we take the alkynes to be derived from the acetylene or ethane. Okay, so by attaching the alkyl group to the ethane, so it's an higher alkyne which is undergoing the ozonolysis. So O3 followed by the hydrolysis. We have to predict what will be the products. See, if it's a terminal alkyne, so when we'll go through the steps basically. So generally when we perform ozonolysis of the higher alkynes means the alkynes that have been derived from the acetylene. So they will first give us the diketones. So we look at how the reaction will proceed, and the diketones will further get oxidized into dicarboxylic acids. So first we are going to get the diketone, and diketones will further get oxidized into dicarboxylic acids. If we have a terminal carbon having the triple bond, then this carbon is going to get oxidized into CO2. This carbon will be getting oxidized into CO2. But here we don't have the triple bond on the terminal carbon. So let us look at what is going to happen. First we will have the ozonide complex being formed. So wherever we have the triple bond, that is where the ozonide complex is going to be getting formed. Okay, so there you can see the difference between the ozonide complex in case of alkenes and alkynes. Alkenes, between the two carbons there will be no bond once the ozonide complex is formed. That is the case of the alkenes. But alkynes will still have one bond because the valency has to be satisfied. So this is the ozonide complex, and this when it is undergoing hydrolysis, it will give us diketones. We can see both the carbons are going to become what? The carbonyl carbons. That's why we have a diketone. This on further hydrolysis will give us, so there will be cleavage here. Further hydrolysis will give us the acids. If it is a terminal carbon, then the terminal carbon is going to become what? It will be becoming CO2. Okay, but here we don't have a terminal carbon having the triple bond. Here we have the triple bond which is inside the chain. So the higher alkynes, they will first get hydrolyzed into what? Diketones, and then further they will become carboxylic acids. So we can see based upon the position of the triple bond, right, the products are going to be determined. So this side you are going to get CH3COOH. The carbonyl carbon will now become what? Carboxylic carbon. So CH3COOH will be on one side. Another side what will be there? CH3CH2COOH. So we'll have acetic acid and propanoic acid. The correct answer for this is option B. So products will be acetic acid and propanoic acid. If it is a case of a situation like this where we have HC triple bond C CH3 like this, when this undergoes ozonolysis followed by hydrolysis, we will be getting, so this carbon, the terminal alkyne carbon will get converted to CO2, will get CO2 plus, this will become what? CH3COOH, acetic acid. So that is the kind of products we will get on the hydrolysis. Next we have a question that has come in the year 2004. Using anhydrous AlCl3, which is a Lewis acid, as a catalyst, which of the following reactions produces ethyl benzene? What is ethyl benzene? So we have a benzene. On that benzene we must have C2H5. This is ethyl benzene. So if you look at the options given to us, what are the options given to us? Option A is the ethyl alcohol with benzene, reacting with benzene. Option B is propene reacting with benzene. Option C is ethene reacting with benzene. Option D is ethane reacting with benzene. So if you look at the possibility, if you have the ethene reacting with benzene in the presence of the Lewis acid, AlCl3. So AlCl3, if you have HCl, then there will be the Lewis acid behavior of AlCl3, which can actually produce H+. So AlCl3 will react with HCl. It will be producing AlCl4 minus and H+. Now this H+ can get added to the ethene. So what will happen as a result of it? We will be getting CH2 plus CH3 after the addition of the electrophile. So we will get a carbocation. Now this carbocation can undergo electrophilic substitution onto the benzene ring. So when the carbocation is undergoing electrophilic substitution, what we are going to get? So this is the R group. So the electrophilic substitution is going to give us what? The substitution of the alkyl group onto the benzene ring. So we are going to be getting finally onto the benzene ring CH2 CH3, which is our ethyl benzene. So the possibility is if we perform the reaction of ethene with benzene in the presence of the Lewis acid, so we will be able to get the ethyl benzene as the product. Next we have a question that has come in the year 2004. Reaction of HBr with propene in the presence of peroxide gives. So we need to find out what will be the reaction of HBr with propene in the presence of peroxide. So here we'll just quickly take a look at what is the mechanism that follows. We know that we will be getting anti-Markovnikov product. Okay, so we have a peroxide. So generally peroxide means we will not be using hydrogen peroxide but any organic peroxide. So we'll have a peroxide that will undergo the homolytic cleavage to give the free radicals, and in the second step the free radical will attack HBr. The free radical will attack HBr, thereby forming the bromine radical. And now the bromine radical is going to be attacking the double bond site. So thereby, you know, more stable free radical will be formed. So if you look at the alkene, which is the propene here, when the bromine radical has to attack, so let us number them as 1 and 2 carbons. Either the bromine radical can attach to the carbon 1 or carbon 2. Now when it is attaching to the carbon 1, we will get this product. So if it is attaching to carbon 1 means the homolytic cleavage of this will give us what? Both carbons will become radical carbons, and bromine is attaching here means the radical, the unpaired electron will be on the secondary carbon. So secondary radicals are more stable than the primary radicals. So if the bromine is attaching itself to carbon 2, then you know the carbon 1 will become the free radical carbon. So the primary radicals are less stable than secondary radicals. So between these two, the stable one will be what? The secondary. Now in the final step, this secondary radical will react with another HBr molecule. So wherein it will attach itself to the hydrogen, and a bromine radical will be formed as a result of it. So as we can see, the culmination step will be any two radicals combining to give a molecule will be the culmination step of this. Okay, any free radical reaction which is following the free radical mechanism, whenever two free radicals are combining, that will be the culmination step. If a free radical is attacking a molecule, that will be the propagation step. Okay, so here we can see both in step 2 we have propagation happening because a free radical is attacking a molecule to produce another radical. In step 3 we also have propagation because there is a radical getting produced. Step 4 we also have a radical getting produced. All these are what? Propagation steps. Step 1 is like we can say the initiation. Step 1 is like what? Initiation. Step 2, 3 and 4 they are like what? Propagation. Step 5 will be the culmination. Okay, not only two bromine radicals but any two radicals combining to give a molecule will be the culmination step. So here what we see is the product will be exactly opposite to that of what we see in the normal addition of HBr. So normal addition of HBr will be as per the Markovnikov rule. So if we have the propene, which is CH3 CH double bond CH2. So if we are adding HBr normally means as per the Markovnikov addition, hydrogen will go to the carbon that is already having more hydrogens, means hydrogen will come here, bromine. So we are going to be getting 2-bromopropane. But as per the anti-Markovnikov addition, which is in the presence of peroxide, we will get N-propyl bromide. Okay, so N-propyl bromide can be also called as what? As per the IUPAC nomenclature, we can call it as 1-bromopropane. Okay, so the correct answer for this is N-propyl bromide. We can also call it as what? 1-bromopropane. Next, we have a question that has come in the year 2003. The compound CH3, CH3 double bond CH3. Okay, it's an alkene. On reacting with NaIO4. What is NaIO4? It is sodium periodate. Okay, so on reacting with NaIO4 in the presence of KMnO4. KMnO4 is an oxidizing agent. KMnO4 is an oxidizing agent. So generally, if we look at what is the role of sodium periodate. So sodium periodate will be able to cleavage the diols. So if we have vicinal diol, sodium periodate will be able to cleavage the diols into respective carbonyl compounds. Either we will be getting the aldehydes or ketones. So exactly where we have the carbon-carbon link between the diol carbons, that link will be broken and we will be getting the respective carbons will become carbonyl carbons, either the aldehyde carbon or the ketone carbon. So we can see the products will be NaIO3 and H2O. So this is what is the role of sodium periodate. It will be able to cleavage the vicinal diols into the aldehydes or ketones. Now the thing is, if you look at the role of KMnO4. So KMnO4 is an oxidizing agent. First, the KMnO4 will be able to oxidize the alkene into the diol compound. So what will happen? So we will be getting CH3, OH, CHOH, CH3. This will be the compound that will come. Now the diol will undergo cleavage due to the NaIO4 and we will be getting the respective carbonyl compounds. So means this side it is going to be what? It is going to be acetone, which will be a ketone. But this side it will be what? CH3, CH2, CHO, CH3, CHO. This is, acetaldehyde. Okay. So the acetone cannot undergo further oxidation by KMnO4, but the acetaldehyde can undergo further oxidation into acetic acid. So the products will be what? The final products are going to be acetone and acetic acid. Acetone can be also called, as per the IUPAC nomenclature, acetone can be also called as what? Propanone. Acetone can be also called as a propanone. Okay, so correct answer for this is option D, which is acetone and acetic acid. So the acetaldehyde that is formed after the cleavage with the NaIO4 will get further oxidized by the KMnO4. That is possible only for aldehydes but not for the ketones. Next we have another question that has come in the year 2003. Which one of the following is a free radical substitution reaction? So we are looking for the free radical substitution reaction. So where it happens, the free radical substitution reaction will happen, generally if you look at the substitution reactions, right? Substitution reactions, free radical substitution reaction will happen when we have the alkanes. The hydrogens of the alkanes, they get substituted by the chlorine in the presence of sunlight or the UV rays. Then we will see that there will be a free radical mechanism. If you look at the given options, right? Okay, look at option B. I'll tell you why I am starting with option B. Obviously the prediction is what? The correct answer could be option A, but we'll just start with option B. So option B, right, what is it? We have a benzene and haloalkane in the presence of anhydrous AlCl3. So this is the Friedel-Crafts alkylation, and this follows what? This follows the electrophilic substitution mechanism. So this is clearly out of picture. So this follows the electrophilic substitution mechanism, that is the Friedel-Crafts alkylation. Then option C, so this is not going to be the free radical substitution. Option C is we have C6H5 CH2Cl reacting with AgNO2. If you see the product, what is happening? The Cl minus is replaced by NO2 minus. So which is what? It is the nucleophilic substitution. So the option C is talking about nucleophilic substitution. Option D is aldehyde reacting with HCN to give an addition product. So here what is actually happening is we have CH3, C double bond OH reacting with HCN. Okay, so the double bond will undergo cleavage where we will have oxygen getting minus and carbon getting plus, and the HCN will be added. So how the HCN will be added? The CN will be added to the carbon because CN minus and H plus will be added to oxygen. So the final product will be what? CH3, CH, OH, CN. So this is an addition happening. This is a nucleophilic addition. Okay, nucleophilic addition that will be shown by the carbonyl compounds. So this is also not going to be the possibility. Now if you look at option A, what is happening in option A? So when we are heating the toluene, so there will be a free radical substitution where the hydrogen or the hydrogen radicals from the CH3 of toluene will get replaced by the chlorine radicals, or will get substituted by the chlorine radicals. So what we see is in the presence of the boiling or the energy obtained from sunlight, we can see that there is going to be what? A free radical substitution reaction, just the way we will see in the case of the normal alkanes. So normal alkanes, what we are going to have? We will have the chlorine which will undergo dissociation to give the chlorine radicals, and the chlorine radical will attack the hydrocarbon to give the substituted product, and this happens through the free radical substitution mechanism. Okay, we are not getting into the details of the mechanism here, but this will be the only reaction that will happen through the free radical substitution. We can see that the hydrogens of the CH3 group are being replaced by the chlorines. Correct answer for this is option A. Next we have a question that has come in the year 2003. The correct order of reactivity towards electrophilic substitution of the compounds. So benzene and benzene derivatives, they will undergo electrophilic substitution reactions. So what are the compounds here? Aniline, benzene and nitrobenzene. So if you look at aniline and nitrobenzene, this is where we have the functional groups attached to the benzene. Okay, see, NH2 group is an electron donating group. Okay, so it shows the plus R effect. It will be electron donating group, and this will increase the electron density on the ring, especially on the ortho and para positions. Okay, and benzene as such is electron rich because of the delocalization of these pi electrons. That's why benzene will be able to participate in the electrophilic substitution reaction. Okay, but when we attach a NO2 group is electron withdrawing group, it will show minus R effect. So the electron density on the benzene ring will be decreasing because it will withdraw the electron cloud from the ring. So if you look at the possible, I mean, we are not getting into the details of it because this is something that we will learn when we talk about the way in which the plus R effect and minus R effect will operate. So we have the nitrogen of aniline. It will donate the lone pair towards the ring. So as a result, what we will see is, so we will not write all the structures, but we will just write, so negative charge will come NH2 plus, and the negative charge will further be delocalized. So we will see that, you know, the ortho and para positions will become electron rich. Whereas in the case of NO2, it will be showing an electron withdrawing effect. So nitrogen, okay, so the electron will be moving towards more electronegative element, which is oxygen. As a result of it, the pi bond electrons will be delocalized out of the ring. So as a result, we will see that like in the case of the minus R effect, the ortho para positions will become electron deficit or positive in the resonance structures that we draw. So what we see is benzene normally has its own electron density. If you attach NH2 group, means that's what happens in the case of aniline. On the ring, the electron density is increasing. So there will be more chance for the electrophilic substitution. So first compound, which is aniline, will be more reactive towards the electrophilic substitution than second. Second is the base, benzene. Third option is nitrobenzene. So in case of nitrobenzene, since the NO2 group is electron withdrawing, the ortho para positions become the electron deficit. So the activity of the ring will be decreasing. It will be lower than the benzene ring itself. So the correct order is 1 more than 2 more than 3. So whenever we attach minus R group, then the activity of the ring will be decreasing. Whenever we attach a plus R group, then the activity of the ring will be increasing, except for the halogens. So only in the case of halogens will show, halogens like chlorine, bromine, iodine, they'll show plus R effect, but they also show a strong minus I effect. So in case of halogens, the minus I effect will be dominating. That is why even though they are having the plus resonance effect, they will be still deactivating the ring, because the inductive effect will be stronger in the case of the halogens. So other than that exception, generally whenever we have a plus R groups attached to the ring, means the ring will be activated. Minus R groups attached to the ring means ring will be deactivated. Next we have a question that has come in the year 2002. When CH3, CH2, CHCl2, it's a gem dihalide. So when this gem dihalide is treated with NaNH2, sodium amide. Sodium amide is a strong base. What is the product? It's a very standard reaction. So when we have the sodium amide, two equivalents of it reacting with a gem dihalide, it will be giving us alkyne. So not only in the case of the geminal dihalides, but also in the case of the vicinal dihalides. So the sodium amide, it will react with in two equivalents quantity, will react with a vicinal dihalide. Again we are going to get the alkyne. Okay, so here the given dihalide is also going to give us same type of product, which will be alkyne. So the carbon which is having the chlorines and the adjacent carbon, these two carbons will finally end up having the triple bond, as we can see in the product. Okay, so the formation of alkyne will be the outcome of this reaction. So the correct answer for this is option B. So whenever we have either the geminal dihalides or the vicinal dihalides, when they react with NaNH2, it will be giving us the alkyne as the final product. Okay, there will be dehydrohalogenation reaction. So the reaction is what? Dehydrohalogenation. So what is essentially happening here is, we can see the chlorine from the carbon where it is attached, and adjacent carbon hydrogen. So two chlorines will get removed here and two hydrogens will get removed here. So the final product will be what? CH3, C triple bond CH. And the chlorines will get added to the sodium, so we'll get two equivalents of NaCl, and the hydrogens will get added to the NH2, so we'll get 2 moles of NH3. So this will be the final outcome of the reaction. Next we have a question that has come in the year 2001. In the preparation of alkene from alcohol using Al2O3, so this is what? Dehydration reaction. So preparation of alkene from alcohol means it is a dehydration. Dehydration can be performed by using various methods, like in the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid or in the presence of Al2O3, okay, alumina. So using the alumina, the dehydration of alcohol to produce alkene, which is the effective factor. So if you look at the options, they're talking about porosity of Al2O3, temperature, concentration, surface area. So generally whenever we look at any catalytic reaction, the surface area part will be important. Surface area of the catalyst higher means that will be able to enhance the rate of the reaction. So whether it is porosity, more porous means what? More surface area will be available. Again, option D is also talking about the same thing. So higher surface area will generally increase the rate of the reaction. And concentration, if you talk about it, the concentration of the reactants is generally going to increase the rate of reaction. That is there for most of the reactions. But if you look at the reaction where we have particularly the alcohol getting dehydrated to produce alkene, the reaction will happen at a temperature of 620 Kelvin. Okay, and if you see the setup, we'll have the mineral wool which is soaked in ethanol. So where we'll have the vapors passed over the hot aluminum oxide, and we'll see that when it is getting cooled back, we'll get ethene. So what we see here is that the vapors of ethanol, they are passed over the hot aluminum oxide, which is maintained at a temperature of 620 Kelvin. So the important factor about this reaction is it will be sensitive towards temperature. So if you look at the primary alcohols at high temperature, they will undergo intramolecular dehydration. So this must be what? To produce alkene, there must be CH3, CH2, OH. So the OH group is leaving from one carbon, means from the adjacent carbon hydrogen must leave. That's when we will get the CH2 double bond CH2, we will get the alkene. So we have to have intramolecular dehydration. Whereas at low temperatures, if we go below the maintained temperature of 620, what would happen is there will be intermolecular dehydration. So intermolecular dehydration of alcohols will end up giving us ethers. Means from one alcohol molecule OH group is leaving, means another alcohol molecule the hydrogen will leave. So as a result, we will end up getting ethers as the products. So that is the reason why this reaction rate will be particularly sensitive towards the temperature. So the effective factor here we will consider it to be the temperature. While generally for most of the the chemical reaction, concentration is a factor, and the surface area in case of the catalytic reactions is also a factor. But here the more effective factor that we have to consider is in terms of the temperature, because at high temperature that we maintain around 670 Kelvin, we have the intramolecular dehydration. Means within the molecule the dehydration happens. H2O will be losing from the same molecule. So that will give us the alkene. But at low temperature we will see the intermolecular dehydration happens, that will yield us ethers and not the alkenes. So the option that we will choose for this is option B, which is about the temperature part. So this is about the part 5 video, and we will see in the next part.